48 AC was the 6th year of King Maegor Targaryen's reign, and the last year of his life. No man in the Seven Kingdoms could doubt the king was now accursed after his third stillborn child with a third woman. What slowly dwindling followers still remained to him began to melt away faster and faster. Word reached King's Landing that Sir Joffrey Doggett and his warrior sons had been seen entering Riverrun, not as captives but as guests of Lord Tully. The people's High Septon, Septon Moon, appeared once more, leading thousands of the faithful on a march across the Reach to Old Town, where they announced their intent of removing the lickspittle High Septon in the Starry Sept. In demand, he denounced the abomination on the Iron Throne and lift the ban on the military orders of the faith. When Lord Oakheart and Lord Rowan appeared before him with their levies, they came not to attack Septon Moon, but to instead join him. Lord Edwell Celtigar resigned his hand at the king and returned to his seat on Claw Isle. Reports from the Dornish marches suggest that Dornishmen were gathering in the passes, preparing to invade. While Maegor had ruled with an iron fist, it was clear that same fist had begun to rust and corrode. He ruled with fear, and people, lords and small folk alike, were starting to no longer fear his wrath. The worst blow of all came from Storm's End, the seat of House Baratheon, the once firm allies of House Targaryen, who were once again about to enter the political fray. There, on the shores of Shipbreaker Bay, Lord Rogar Baratheon proclaimed the young Prince Jaehaerys, the last living son of King Aenys, to be the true and lawful king of the Andals, the Rhoynar and the First Men, and in turn Prince Jaehaerys named Lord Rogar protector of the realm and his hand at the king. The prince's mother, Queen Alyssa Velaryon, and his sister, Princess Alysanne, stood beside him as Jaehaerys unsheathed the stolen Valyrian steel blade, Dark Sister, and vowed to end the reign of his brutal, usurping uncle. Hundreds of lords and Stormland knights cheered the proclamation. This came as a huge shock to Maegor. After Alyssa and her children had fled Dragonstone in the wake of the Dowager Queen Visenya's death, many assumed she would return to her family seat on Driftmark. When she did not, many then believed she had fled Westeros altogether, given the children's dragons had not been spotted at all across the realm, perhaps to Lys, Tyrosh, Pentos or Volantis. Few expected Alyssa to emerge in the Stormlands, with the support of Rogar Baratheon and an army of Stormlanders ready to march to war. Prince Jaehaerys himself was just a boy of 14 years when he claimed the throne, said to be a handsome youth, skilled with a lance and a longbow, and a gifted rider. More, he rode a great bronze and tan beast called Vermithor, and his sister, Alysanne, a young maid of 12, commanded her own dragon, Silverwing. Maegor has only one dragon, Lord Rogar told the Stormlords. Our prince has 2. But we must recall Velaryon would still be a threat given his age and size and sheer ferocity. Aegon the Uncrowned had paid with his life for underestimating the Black Dread. The very fact that Lord Rogar Baratheon felt confident enough to now make a stand and not fear the flames of Velaryon speaks volumes to how Maegor's reputation had fallen. The situation only worsened for Maegor when news of the emergence of Jaehaerys reached the Red Keep and that Rogar Baratheon was gathering his forces at Storm's End. Queen Rhaena Targaryen, the prince's elder sister, mounted her own dragon Dreamfyre and flew to join him, abandoning the uncle she had been forced to marry. She took her daughter Arya and Blackfyre, the sword of kings, with her, stolen from the king's own scabbard as he slept. Jaehaerys and Rogar now had 3 dragons, maybe a match for Velaryon, but worst of all for Maegor was the loss of Blackfyre, the sword of kings, the sword of his father Aegon the Conqueror, which many saw as a symbol of the legitimacy of the king. Maegor's response was slow and confused. With the loss of the network of informants controlled by the late Queen Hyenna, he was effectively blind to much of the growing threat to his reign. He commanded the Grand Maester to send forth his ravens, summoning all his loyal bannermen and to gather at King's Landing, only to find that Vermithor had taken ship for Pentos. Finding Princess Arya gone, he sent a rider to Old Town to demand the head of her twin sister Rhaella to punish their mother for her betrayal. But Lord Hightower imprisoned the messenger instead. 2 of Maegor's own Kingsguard vanished one night and went over to Jaehaerys, and Sir Owen Bush, another knight of the Kingsguard, found dead outside a brothel, his member stuffed into his mouth. Lord Velaryon of Driftmark was amongst the first major lords to declare for Jaehaerys, which makes sense given they were kin to Jaehaerys' mother, Queen Alyssa. As the Velaryons were the realm's traditional admirals, Maegor had woken up that morning to find he had lost the entire royal fleet to Jaehaerys and Rogar. This was quickly followed by the Tyrells of Highgarden, with all the power at their reach. The Hightowers of Oldtown, the Redwynes of the Arbor, the Lannisters of Casterly Rock, the Arryns of the Eyrie, the Royces of Runestone, one by one, all the great lords and major houses came out against Maegor. In King's Landing, a score of lesser lords did gather at Maegor's command. Perhaps the most powerful among them, Lord Darkland of Duskendale, who was joined by Lord Massey of Stonedance, the new Lord Towers of Harrenhal, Lord Staunton of Rook's Rest, and Lord Bar-Emmon of Sharp Point, Lord Buckwell of Antlers, Lord Rosby of Stokeworth, Hayford, Hart, Birch, Rollingford, Bywater, and Mallory. Yet, they commanded less than 4,000 men amongst them, and only 1 in 10 of them were true knights, with most of the great lords and powerful houses declaring for Jaehaerys. It's a surprise that many of these minor lords were even brave enough to side with Maegor. Perhaps the rewards on offer, should they prevail, however unlikely it was enough to entice these minor lords. Maegor brought them together in the Red Keep one night to discuss his plan of battle, how he would crush his young nephew, just as he had done Aegon the Uncrowned. When they saw how few they truly were, and realised not a single great lord was coming to join them, many lost heart. Lord Hayford was bold enough and went as far enough to urge Maegor to abdicate the throne and take the Black. Hayford was beheaded on the spot and continued his war council as if nothing had happened, with Hayford's head mounted on a lance behind the Iron Throne. All day the lords made their plans, and late into the night. It was the hour of the wolf when at last Maegor allowed them to take their leave. The king remained behind, brooding on the Iron Throne as they departed. Lord Towers and Lord Rosby were the last to see Maegor. Hours later, as dawn was breaking, the last of Maegor's queens came seeking after him. Queen Eleanor found him still upon the Iron Throne, pale and dead, his robes soaked through with blood. His arms had been slashed open to the bone, from wrist to elbow, on the jagged barbs of the throne, and another blade had gone through his neck to emerge beneath his chin. Many to this day believe it was the Iron Throne itself that killed Maegor. Maegor was alive and well when Rosby and Towers left the throne room, they argue, and the guards at the door swore no one entered afterwards, until Queen Eleanor made her discovery. Some say it was in fact the Queen herself who forced him down onto those barbs to avenge the murder of her first husband. The Kingsguard might have done the deed, but that would have required them to have acted in concert, as there was 2 knights posted at each door. It might also have been a person or unknown persons entering and leaving the throne room through some hidden passage. The Red Keep has its secrets known only to the dead. Perhaps a family member, or even a lucky survivor of Maegor's purge of the builders of the Red Keep, somehow lived and came to take their revenge. It might also be that the king tasted despair in the dark watches of night and took his own life, twisting the blades as needed and opening his veins to spare himself the defeat and disgrace that surely awaited him. The reign of King Maegor Targaryen, known to the history and legends as Maegor the Cruel, lasted only 6 years and 6 days. Upon his death, his corpse was burned in the yard of the Red Keep, his ashes interred afterward on Dragonstone, beside those of his mother, Dowager Queen Visenya. He died childless and left no heir.